the New York Knickerbockers are in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999.
Since Moby Dick was a guppy, the
Big
Knicks
time.
are back in the NBA Finals, and they are riding a hot streak. We talk about it a lot. It's 11 straight wins, blowing the doors off the competition. And one person besides the odd couple, Rob Parker, Kelvin Washington, who is not impressed by these New York Knicks, Draymond Green. Take a listen.
I double down on this. Just like Becky Hammond said, prove me wrong. Absolutely double down. Getting out of the East has never been a surefire to winning a championship. What y'all talking about? You get out of the East, you're supposed to get out of the East. It's the East. Of course you're supposed to get out of the East. That don't just mean you win a championship because you get out of the East. It's the East. Great. It's the East. We beat up Boston. You should get out the East. Happy for Mike Brown, by the way. But you should get out of the East.
Here's why Draymond has a bad podcast before we get to his Nick take.
Yeah.
You know why he has a bad podcast? Because who was he really friends with big time?
LeBron?
Okay. So if somebody was there to say, so you're discounting LeBron and coming out of the East and losing all of do you see what I'm saying, Rob G? Like, where's somebody to push that, and then he'd have to change his narrative on how to eat, right? Because the East was always, okay, LeBron got out, but they had to go West, and he lost all these finals.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about, guys, when you listen to podcasts and balance and somebody checking these guys. One thing, LeBron is the greatest guy ever, and now because it's the Knicks coming out of the East, he's talking about it's to be in the least, and it's no big deal coming out of the East and all of that. I wish I was a co-host on that show because I would have thrown that right back to him. Which way is he going to go? Protect his friend? Or is he going to change his tune? Mm-hmm. Remember that when you listen to these terrible podcasts out there by players. Unchecked. Underreported. Turn them off. And turn the radio back on.
That was Micah.
Yeah. Turn off your mic, and I was right about that.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I do kind of agree with
Draymond. It's all that just to agree with him. Now you agree with your favorite podcaster in the sports world. I did all that just to say I love what Draymond said there.
And that's the only thing I'm going to say. I'm not going to trash the Knicks for winning. That's who's on the schedule. You got to play. Okay? So I'm not one of these. What I always say, sports has a short menu. Wins and losses, they win. They won. They won 11 in a row. But there's always context as well. And that's all. I think if Draymond could say that and articulate the context of it, break down the teams, two of them which quit after the Cavaliers gave up a 22-point lead with 8 minutes essentially, and their coach stopped coaching or whatever it was, and Philly got punched in the mouth, right? And they kind of collapsed and just kind of gave up. And remember, this team lost and was down in the series to the Hawks 2-1. Jalen Brunson playing hero ball. People questioning Mike Brown and whether or not they were going to get out of the first round, if you remember. People were like, what is this? So there is some context to say they've had an easy path. And I don't think it's a crime to say that if you view the teams that they played out of the East as easy. So I think that part is, but I don't think he articulated it well.
No, because all he was trying to do was act like the West is the best and the East is the least. And that's all he was trying to do. And it didn't even make any sense. The reason why it didn't make sense, Rob, is because not a single person is running around outside of New York, maybe the tri-state area, and saying that guaranteed now the Knicks are going to win the finals. Nobody's saying that. Literally no one is saying that. People, I don't know, the Spurs, Wemby's so great. I can see the Knicks winning.
No, just in New York. You know that because they haven't been in a finals
but
in so long.
But he's acting like, aside from the New York Knicks fans, that anyone is just screaming they're guaranteed to win. I mean, I would imagine a lot of people are going to pick the Spurs because they beat the reigning champs and the reigning MVP. And let me also add this. This is the first time in NBA history that we had 8 or more teams lose 55 games, which means to me, I think both conferences were a little inflated. The Pistons, I don't think were quite as good as 60 win. I think they're a good team.
Now you say that?
Well, no, I said it earlier. I think everybody was a little inflated when you got to play the Pacers 4, 5, 6 times. You got to play the Bucks. You got to play the Wizards. Let's go to the West. You got to play the Jazz. You got to play the Grizzlies. You got to play a handful of these teams. There was 8 of them that were bad, tanking, or terrible in your record or how good you were. I don't think I don't think Denver was as good as we thought. I don't think Houston's was as good as we thought. I don't think, obviously the Rockets weren't. I already said the Rockets. The Lakers. My point is, without Luka, obviously, Draymond is discounting what the Knicks have done. You mentioned it. Who's on the schedule? Gotta beat them. And guess what the Knicks have done? BTA. Belt to you know what? It would be different, Rob, if they played with their food. All right, we got to barely beat the Cavs, barely beat the Hawks after the first couple 2-3 games. They've been smacking everybody up. 76ers, who beat Boston, who a lot of people thought once they got Tatum back would be in the finals, me and you hands up included.
No doubt.
And so they beat Boston. Boston loses to Philly. They beat Philly handedly. They beat the Cavs handedly. And their average margin of victory is 24 points. So the only thing I'll say to him is this Knicks team is not playing with their food. They're taking care of business like you would want the team to do, and they've gotten to the finals. It's not a guarantee, but to me, they look like a real team. And if they lose to the Spurs in game 6 or 7, the Spurs are a very good team. But I think he's discounting the Knicks, who had gotten close last year. They lose to the Pacers in a close one. Mind you, the same Eastern Conference team, if Tyrese Halliburton don't blow out a Achilles, we might be talking about the one-time champs, the Indiana Pacers, coming from the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, I think Draymond is trying to sell his Western Conference a little bit too much. I think he's discrediting what the Knicks have done.
But what about the LeBron factor? Like, he didn't think about that, right?
And LeBron.
Because there were people who used that as
a
for
lot
LeBron,
of people.
okay?
My thing when pushback has always been with that. Did you ever look up LeBron's record versus the West? LeBron, whichever iteration you want, he won like 64, 68% of his games.
Yeah, but he didn't win enough championships.
No, I don't disagree with that. But my point is, it wasn't like, oh, I'm so scared of the West. He always go over there versus Kobe, versus this team, versus whoever. He would smack the West up a little bit. And if you go through his record until they got KD, they were like dag near tied, the Warriors and the Cavs. Because they was 4-2 in 2015, 4-3 the Cavs 2016, and then they had to go and get KD. So anyway, I digress. I think the Western Conference is deeper. I'll 100% give you that. But the idea that just, the Eastern sucks. Do they get there? Pacers almost won. He doesn't blow out the keys. We know the Celtics have won recently as well. And we'll have to still wait and see. The Knicks will very well win. All right, Rob, so they're watching us right now, which means another thing they can do is what?
They can subscribe. All you got to do is hit that button, subscribe to The Odd Couple for some of the best sports talk content in the nation.
Facts, and while you're at it, they can like, they can comment, they can share. Do all that for us. We appreciate it. Just do all that right up in here.